This show is for the sales leader who knows they have a pivotal role in driving outstanding sales results. Getting hired or promoted to manage a sales team is a big accomplishment, but you know you have to work hard to become a great sales leader. You are listening to the Divine Comedy of Sales podcast. Here's your host, coach, and advisor to elite sales leaders from around the world, Matt McDarby.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the Divine Comedy of Sales. I'm Matt McDarby, veteran seller, leader, coach, and advisor to elite sales leaders all over the world. I'm really excited to have you join for this episode, which is all about how to diagnose sales performance problems, something that all of us sales leaders have to do at one time or another, and I would argue is really the core skill that we have to develop in order to be effective sales leaders no matter where we go. So let's dive right in and talk about what separates great sales leaders from others when it comes to this diagnosis, right? How to go about diagnosing sales performance problems. The thing really that I've found is great sales leaders simply go deeper to find root causes. Root causes of what? Root causes of sales performance problems. And that is one of the things that I found that really separates them from average leaders. So let's break that down a little bit further. Great sales leaders, I said they go deeper. What that means is they go past the surface level issues. What's an example of a surface level issue in a sales force? Maybe you've seen this before. Common thing that I've heard average sales leaders point out in the past, we don't have enough activity. That's our problem, right? We're not performing because we don't have enough activity out in the field. Now, that may be true, right? We may be looking at a total addressable market that we are barely scratching the surface of, and that could be legitimately the reason for why we're not performing. We're simply not as active as we need to be. But what I've found over the years is that's sort of a knee-jerk reaction, and that we don't have enough activity is kind of an excuse that I find sales leaders using because they don't really want to get down beneath the surface and understand, well, why? If that is in fact the case, is it really that we're not sufficiently active or efficient in our market? Or is there something else going on, right? Do we really have an effectiveness issue? Or is there something about our tools or our workflow that's getting in the way? So that's a really common example of a surface level issue. We don't have enough activity. When I hear that, I'm like, well, all right, I don't take that at face value. Let's dig into that and understand if that's really the issue or if it's something else. You see how great sales leaders approach an issue like that, where on the surface it appears we have an activity problem. We're inefficient in the market. We're not making enough touches to hit our numbers. What great sales leaders do is ask, why? Why is that? What's getting in the way? Do we have a lack of willingness? A lack of capability? Do we not have the tools? Do people not understand what's expected? Is there something about our messaging that's wrong? On and on and on. So in fact, most of the, quote, activity level issues that I've seen, if you get beneath the surface, you realize there are several other contributing factors that are leading to a lack of efficiency in the market. And that's what great sales leaders do, right? They ask, why does the issue exist? How do we know that this is simply a matter of people not putting in the effort? Is there something else? And that is the job of the sales leader, right? We've got to figure that out. So great sales leaders, they dig past the surface level issues. How do they do that? They ask why. They know that they're responsible for diagnosing root causes. And then one other thought here. Great sales leaders go past surface level issues because they know that getting beneath the surface is where they have the best chance to offer value and insight to people in their organization, to help others to find or see things that they otherwise would not. So if my job as a leader is to create value for the people in my organization, I have to go past the surface level issues. Why? Because they can see the surface level issues too. Anybody can look at data and see if we've got a pipeline problem or see if we're not hitting an activity metric. Not everyone can necessarily dig into that issue and really get down to the heart of the matter and identify, well, what is that problem that we need to solve in order to unlock our activity level or be more effective when we get out in front of clients or whatever the issue is. Great sales leaders eagerly dig beneath the surface because they know they have to expose issues and opportunities for their teams. That's a big part of their role. I think of my own best moments as a coach of sales managers and reps. And it's those moments where I've helped them to discover something that was way down beneath the surface. And they say things like, wow, okay, now we know what to focus on. That's a great feeling as a leader when you help people to see things differently. Now, another thing that I've seen great leaders do to kind of go deep, right, to find root causes is they don't rely on assumptions. Having experience, and I can say this having many years as a sales leader and rep myself, but having experience is a great thing, but experience doesn't mean that one has all the answers. And the best leaders I've known, like I said, don't rely on assumptions. They know that experience bias is a thing. Experience bias is defined as taking our perception to be the objective truth, right? I've seen this before. I know what the situation is. Really? Well, the best leaders don't make that assumption. Sure, they observe, they look at data, they may have a suspicion about the root cause of a performance problem, but what they do once they have that information is they ask smart questions of others, of themselves, right? How do we know this to be true? What other evidence do we have that confirms this issue? What have we done in the past to solve a problem like this? Did it work? Why or why not, right? So there's kind of a range of questions that I, as a leader, will go through on my own and with others to test assumptions rather than rely upon them and make decisions based on assumptions. And when great sales leaders engage with others to test assumptions, right, where the purpose is to get down to root causes and solve performance problems, they seek others' input and they listen to understand, not rebut or overcome other perspectives. Right? So if our goal is to diagnose, to get down deep, to find root causes, we certainly can use our experiences to make quick work of diagnosis, but we must engage, look at the data, listen to others, ask smart questions to make sure we're really clear about the root cause of the problem and potential solutions to it, and bring others in to the process and really listen.
Driving great sales results is hard. Doing it consistently is even harder. There are so many obstacles that can prevent you from becoming the most effective sales leader you can be. Find practical advice you can apply right away by picking up your copy of Matt's book, The Divine Comedy of Sales, at www.divinecomedyofsales.com.
In my own experience as a leader, I've had, I can't even count how many times I've had a conversation with either a leader on my team or a salesperson where simply by listening to their perspective about an issue, because they may be closer to the problem than I am, that I've learned something that changed my opinion, that went against an assumption I'd made about the root cause of a performance problem. And lo and behold, we landed on a better solution simply because I was willing to listen. And so I'm taking the page out of the book of some great leaders that I've worked for, right? I don't make assumptions. When I engage with others, I'm really listening, and we are going through a process of diagnosis together. And we are not relying on assumptions to diagnose issues that lead to performance problems. Now, the third thing that I've observed great sales leaders doing to go deep and to find root causes is they look for evidence. Evidence to be defined, right? Something that makes something else plain or clear, right? Something that supports an assertion or an idea. It's sort of the opposite of assuming, is looking for evidence. As a leader, if we look for evidence, if we're sort of dogged in our pursuit, looking for support or proof of root causes, issues that are leading to poor performance, we're really sending a clear message to our teams about one of the virtues, in this case, diligence. I'm demonstrating diligence when I put the work in to really understand, not rely on assumptions, but to keep digging, to try to understand what may be getting in the way of my team achieving what we want them to achieve, performing at a level that they would find acceptable. So when I, as a leader, look for evidence, when I keep digging, I'm looking for evidence that supports what I believe is going on. It's not necessarily to demonstrate that I have the right answers. It's to demonstrate that the process I'm going through requires some work. I'm putting in the work to create value and insight for my team, to diagnose and to get down to the root causes of performance problems. When you think about, as a leader, say if you're a chief sales officer or some other leader of leaders or a frontline manager, the decisions that you make about how to address performance problems affect the whole team. So great sales leaders, they dig for evidence, finally, because they know when a decision will affect the whole team, they better be sure, right? Because you only get so many opportunities to course correct or address root cause issues. And diving in these sort of, ready, fire, aim mode without proper diagnosis, without really getting evidence that supports your assertion about what is leading to poor performance, the downstream effect of that is you can change policy or shift the team's focus or you put them through training or give them new tools, all to solve a problem that doesn't actually exist. So great leaders look for evidence, right, to demonstrate not only that there's a lot of work and thought going into diagnosing performance issues, but because they want to get it right. They know that they'll only have so many chances to address a performance problem in an effective way. As a leader, you only get so many opportunities to demonstrate to your team that you know what the heck you're doing. And I would argue that this goes to your credibility as a leader. Credibility being such a critical factor for trust building with your team, that if you're not willing to invest the time to dig past surface level issues, don't make assumptions, don't rely on assumptions and past experiences, really look for evidence of what's leading to performance problems, then there's a really good chance that you're demonstrating a degree of ineffectiveness for your team. I don't think that you want to do that, do you? I didn't think so. So let's recap. I've said a few things about what it takes to diagnose sales performance problems, and I mentioned that great sales leaders go deep to find root causes. They go past surface level issues, and they don't accept the first conclusion maybe that the data tells them about a performance problem that exists within their team or within their organization. Certainly, they rely on experience to guide their diagnosis, but they don't make assumptions about root cause issues. Why? Because there's really no guarantee that the present situation that you find yourself in, where maybe there's a performance issue or an opportunity to get better results, there's really no reason to believe that the current situation is exactly like past situations you've been confronted with, right? So great leaders don't make assumptions, neither should you. And then finally, what I mentioned was that great leaders, they look for evidence. They really demonstrate a diligent approach to diagnosing, going way down deep and finding root causes for performance problems. And they know that doing so demonstrates, it sends a really important message to their team. I care enough to diagnose these issues, to go deep, to look for evidence, to really try to understand what is getting in your way. Why? Because that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to help you succeed. And why is that such an important message? Because that's what great leaders do. And therein is a little bit of a teaser for our next episode. I hope that you've enjoyed today's episode about how to diagnose sales performance problems, which is part and parcel of how to be a better leader. Ooh, there's a teaser for our next episode. That's the title of our next episode of the Divine Comedy of Sales podcast, How to Be a Better Sales Leader. And we'll get pretty specific into what does it take to demonstrate what great leadership looks like to your team. So important. Looking forward to having you join me for that episode. Until then, this is Matt McDarby, author and host of the Divine Comedy of Sales podcast. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Bye-bye for now. We'll see you next time.